Believe it or not, this guy actually has friends.
Nice.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, folks, let's get it. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, Kevin. By the way, Kevin Graham hanging out with us again. And
hello.
How you doing?
You know what? It's great. It's a Friday, man. We've got to be upbeat, Scotty. I know you're positive today, so let's do this.
I feel like you
the two most positive people today.
Oh, yeah, Lloyd, we were talking before we went on the air. Lloyd's like, all right, I got some heavy lifting to do here with you two. See, here's the thing.
Good.
We can compartmentalize. We can take all the really boring aspects of our life, put it in a nice little container, and bring nothing but positivity on air because that's what people want.
Exactly. 100%. Lloyd, on the other hand, does not do that.
Yeah, no.
If he's miserable, he's going to make everyone around him miserable. That's the way it goes. I get it.
You do remember me.
I know. I remember Lloyd well. Yes.
You know, he's the same guy, just with more power. And so he can really make your life miserable if he wants to.
Okay.
And he
the more power part's pretty comical.
Oh, come on, Lloyd.
I would have loved to have been in that interview when Lloyd interviewed for the program director job. I would just love to see him turn on the positivity. That would have amused me. I would really enjoyed that.
Well, that shows you my level of positivity when they're like, hey, let's go with this guy. You know?
Exactly. Good for Lloyd. I like realists. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Man, we got a lot to get to. Fun show today. And I'm out and about today. One of our favorite places on the planet. And look, it's more about the staff than it is even the cars. The cars are great. I drive a Mazda. My wife drives a Mazda. I just got a Mazda for my kid who just graduated high school. So we are
guess what, Scotty?
What?
I drive a Mazda as well. We are a Mazda family. I do. I got a brand new Mazda a year ago. I'm leasing
what'd you
it.
get?
I see. I got the little one, like not the Miata, even though I think those would be a lot of fun.
I totally could see Kevin in a Miata.
I got the no, you could not.
Fedora
See me
and
in a
Miata.
Yeah. Dude, those things are sweet. Have you seen those up? I mean, that's a roadster right there.
Cranking that Kid Rock in that Miata.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Since it's just me and my daughters are, off the payroll and doing that, doing adult things. I have the CX-30, so I got the smallest SUV. But, man, that thing is cool. Like, it's got, like, that. I mean, you know me. I think I'm a race car. I like to think I'm a race car driver. And so, yeah, I love that thing. That's cool. All right. This will be a fun show then if you're doing some Mazda stuff.
I drive a 50. My wife drives a 90. And nice. I just got a 3 for my kid who just graduated.
The 3s are nice, too.
Yeah.
3's actually a really good starter car, I think, or, younger car. Yeah.
Yeah,
all
so
right.
he's doing well.
Zoom.
And we've got Jake, who I have purchased many vehicles from over the years, and he's going to tell you this story, Kevin, so I'm just going to get out of the way. One time I bought a vehicle not from Jake, and and he still feels like it's that uncomfortable conversation where I'm like, hey, baby, it didn't mean anything, I promise. And and he lets me know about it a lot. So that might come up when you talk to Jake, so I'm just getting it out of the way. There was one incident on a weekend that it didn't matter, but we put that behind us, and we're in a good place now. So
okay, good. Okay.
Nothing
you
but
don't
Mazdas.
Want to tick off your. You don't want to tick off your car salesman.
No, no.
I mean, that's not a good thing to do. Yes.
Nope, it was a long time ago, and like I said, it didn't mean anything.
You cheated.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, everything good there in your side of the country? You're getting snow. We're not getting any snow here.
We did. I'm in the Charlotte area right now, and we got 11 inches of snow like 2 weeks ago, and then the week before that we had snow and ice, and I mean that was a lot. 11 inches. I haven't seen 11 inches in a long time. Probably not since I lived in Utah. No, Boston. Boston, I saw 11 inches, but Utah before that. But 11 inches is stop. Who's laughing? You know what? You guys, okay. 11 inches of snow. It was not pretty. That was a lot of snow. See, Lloyd, we're having a good time now. You thought we were going to have a bad show.
No, we're not having a good time.
No, come on, Lloyd. You're not going to get in trouble.
No, not a one bit.
No, it won't come down to you at all. You won't hear anything.
It wasn't me, by the way.
Oh, you're the one that said it.
You laughed. I knew exactly what you – as soon as I heard you chuckling, I knew what you were thinking about. Yep. So anyways, all right. But, 11 inches of snow we had.
Hey,
yes.
if we have to split you guys up already, like –
and we're off. See, these are my friends, people.
Friday.
I
love Fridays. All right.
You need to find classier friends, Scotty. We need to find classier friends.
All right.
Oh, man.
Let's do it. Starting lineup, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to kick off the show with the biggest headlines of the day. This is your starting lineup on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Basketball, give me the ball because I'm gonna fuck it!
Cody Williams tries to dunk it on a beautiful give from Filipowski, misses. Fast break, Murray bodies up on Collier, swings through, scores it, and a foul on Collier. Pierce drives the lane, lost the basketball, stares at it as it bounces in front of him. He's not allowed to pick it up by league rules, but instead he just lets the Jazz get it, and they get a fast break, and Hinson missed a corner three, but it's far better off just touching the ball and taking the double dribble. Jazz on the run, Harkless down the middle of the floor, lost the dribble to left hand, picked up by Murray. Murray comes back out of travel, Harkless takes it back. Conchar, right wing, three ball, no. Sensabaugh pulls for a three left side and misses by a lot. Here's Harkless. Hand off to Sensabaugh. Guarded by Murray. Stripped by Murray. Murray going the other way. Leaves it behind. McGowan's dunk. Beautiful read by DeJounte Murray. 13 months on the shelf with a torn Achilles, and he comes back with a three and a beautiful assist. 22-7. Pels run. They lead by 8. Bailey clears the board. Bounce ahead to Harkless. Harkless hands to Ace. Ace lets it rip for three. Short. Didn't have his feet set at all. Collier right side. Prancing to the front court. Low dribble. Working in the paint. Bumping, spinning, getting to the window, missing the layup. Tries to go through DeAndre Jordan, throws away another one. Back-to-back turnovers by Filipowski. Here comes Murray, left corner Bay for a three. The route is on. And the Jazz are down 27 here in the opening moments of the third quarter to the New Orleans Pelicans, who've won 4 of their last 6. A 10-0 burst. Collier throws it away. Conchar runs it down the corner. This is terrible basketball right now.
Basketball, give me the ball.
Woo, that was awesome game last night. Awesome
Let's
game.
go, Jazz.
Way to go,
Yeah.
D-Lock. David Locke on the call, man. Beautiful job. He called it.
Wow.
Oh, awesome. Great
You
stuff.
didn't even talk to him about setting that up. He did that all on his own. Painted the picture beautifully as to what we saw last night.
That was a great game. Awesome.
Jazz take the L. You can't really, honestly, script it much better than what we saw. Outscored by 41-23 in the second quarter, and it was that kind of game. What you needed to see from the Jazz, folks. The countdown is on. It's like when you were a kid and you had that little ring thing for Christmas, and you tear off one of those little crepe paper rings before you got down to Christmas, and you're like, okay, that's one more. Boom, that's one more. All right, one more loss, another loss, another loss. Just keep stacking them. Just keep stacking the L's. You want David Locke to say, that's bad basketball. Every single solitary game.
He did an outstanding job. I give Dave. You know what? And Scott, you've been, obviously a long-time play-by-play guy, and I'm sure you've called your fair share of bad teams here and there, although Utah State's always been pretty good. But, him, Bowler Jack, anybody that has to do this day in and day out, the fans could see it too. I got to give David, a great friend of mine, a lot of credit for enduring and making some great calls. Great work, Lloyd, of putting that together. But yeah, it was a great win. A great win for the Jazz by losing their 4 straight. That's the way I look at this. And and I thought the Jazz, Scotty, played outstanding defense. Bay, they held him to 42 points on 14 to 20 shooting. I thought that was tremendous. That's a 70% clip right there. All right, 5 of 9 threes. To me, that's the way you play defense in the situation the Jazz are in. Williamson had 20. I thought the Jazz defense, they were loose enough to allow the Pelicans to score at a clip of 52% shooting, Scotty. So, overall, great job defensively, Scotty. If I had to grade the defensive performance of the Jazz, A+.
A+. Yep.
That was great defense. But now let me talk offense a little bit if you give me a sec, Scott. So Ace Bailey,
okay, sorry.
Offense, yes.
Yeah.
Ace Bailey, 23 points, 9 of 17 shooting. Now, little disappointing on his part, quite frankly. Now, he had 14 points in the first quarter, so he definitely improved by cooling down the rest of the game. But I do believe Ace could put more of an effort in to make sure he's shooting below 50%. So I want him to work on that, all right? So that's something Ace here in the final stretch. Definitely work on not shooting the ball as well. Sensabaugh off the bench may need to stay there, Scotty, if he's going to put in like 20 points coming off the bench. That you don't need that. Get him off the floor. Don't put him out there. Cody Williams with that huge highlight dunk. You
Yeah,
got to
don't-
put a stop. You got to
no
stop
more of
that
that.
too. Yeah, you
This
don't
is
want to.
terrible basketball
You do not want to inspire his teammates or the fans to get behind the team. You definitely do not want to do that. And then as a team shooting 50%, Scotty, really concerning. You got to. I mean, get to the gym, start throwing up some bricks. Work on that. But I will say this as a credit to the Jazz, shooting 64% from the free throw line, very encouraging. Now, if they can keep doing that and maybe get the free throw shooting into the 50 percentile range, then the Jazz can keep winning by losing. Offensive grade, Scotty, I think they could use some improvement. They need to get some. They need to start shooting worse from the floor. So I'm going to give them a C-. But the end result is the end result. So
Yeah.
and then I also one more kudos here. I want to give huge shout out, Will Hardy. I thought he coached a brilliant game. You know what he did best, Scotty? He made sure everyone got to participate. It reminded me back in the day when I was in Utah where my daughters are playing junior Jazz games and everybody, got to play. Well, that's exactly what Will Hardy did with the Jazz. 11 players got double-figure minutes of action. And from what I understand after the game, Scotty, all the players' parents were really happy. None of them complained to Hardy. And that, for me, Hardy deserves an A+. So, overall, defense A+, offense, C-, got to work on that. Coaching A+. Overall, I would give the Jazz an A-. And the end result is they got the W by getting the L. And I was really impressed by it. I really am. I give the Jazz a lot of credit for their performance last night.
If they can get Bay to 50 coming up tomorrow night, that would be even better. That would be even better. Let him get that career high. Let him go for a 50-burger and really let him walk out of Salt Lake City feeling really good about the city, feeling really good about what's going on. And I really like that. And you're right, though. I want everybody comes in the gym, and you're all going to shoot 100 threes, and you can't leave until you miss 10 in a row.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not allowed to leave. Yeah.
And what I think is really great, Scotty, is tomorrow this is the epic back-to-back showdown now. So now you got the Pelicans. Now get this, they're 18-42. Now they still have the 5th worst record. So so you got to put that. But their winning percentage, Scotty, is at .305. The Jazz are at .300. All right, because they're of course 18-41. There's one extra game. So with the Jazz not playing without Lowry Markkanen again because he's got the MRI and he got the hip bone bruise and he's going to be out for 2 weeks. Now, what I hear though is the hope is that's going to be a lingering injury, Scotty, that's going to keep him out the rest of the season. But we're going to have to wait and see on that. But without their leading scorer, the Jazz are an impressive, Scotty, 1-15 this season. I got that out of KSLSports.com, an Anderson article. 1-15. So things are really looking good for the Jazz, in my opinion. And I really expect the Jazz tomorrow night to put together a really great performance, especially if they follow your advice in the shooting the threes. And I really see them losing again, and that would be a huge win. And then suddenly the Jazz will move up a spot to 5th place, meaning having the 5th worst record in the league. Perfect.
Well, and the other thing, too, about the Pelicans is that they actually don't own their first-round pick. So they actually have motivation to win because they don't want to give that away or at least help out anybody in their positioning. So they're actually motivated. You got DeJounte Murray coming off the Achilles, and they're like, hey, let's get him back in the lineup. Why not? Let's see if he can help us out. They're not even pulling a Dallas and shelving Kyrie where they shelved Kyrie Irving for the rest of the year. So, you got a team that actually is trying to win up against a team that, frankly, is going to be doing their best to lose, and that needs to spell another L for the Utah Jazz. And we just want David Locke over and over again to just say one thing throughout the course of the game tomorrow. If he can say this, then we got
terrible basketball right now.
That's all we need to hear from David. That's all we need to hear.
You should start every show, Scotty, after every game the rest of the year. I know this will be more work for Lloyd, just putting the best highlights, or should say lowlights together. But, in all reality, it's exactly what you need. In some ways you feel bad. Like I can't imagine. I'm sure you're playing sports, Scotty, and the hills of Idaho and my pee-wee football years when we were bad at times because I was the quarterback and I was terrible and so our team sucked. So
it does. KG was under center. I didn't know this.
I was a starting quarterback for 4 straight years. But, Scotty, the only reason I was starting quarterback.
Pictures or it didn't
The only
happen.
reason
Yeah,
I do have pictures.
There's got to be some Betamax out there somewhere.
There is a team picture. It doesn't show me as quarterback, but it has me as the team quarterback number and the whole deal. But
you had the number, so that
14 or 12 or 12.
Must
12
have been a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
I was. Every year, though, here was the only reason I was quarterback. I was the smallest kid on the team. I was pretty much one of the slowest kids on the team. Not a good combination to be a good athlete, hence why now I yip-yap for a living. But what I'm saying is that every year they would trot out the more athletic kid to try to beat me out, and I'd sit there and watch and go, I'm going to be the starting quarterback, because the end game was, as kids, I was the only one smart enough to remember the plays. So, I just remember our best play was 28 boom pass. I'd pitch it to the tailback. He'd throw the ball down the field because my arm could only throw it about 3 yards down the field. So, but yes, I was quarterback. You could ask my brother.
28 boom pass.
Yeah.
That's some complex offensive sets.
Bobby Ray would take the ball, and it was always our first play of the game too. And Bobby Ray, it's peewee football, and he'd throw it, 8 yards down the field, and we'd always surprise the team. And But anyway,
Cam Newton thinks that's a pretty light play.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That's a pretty tough.
I don't even know what my
there.
point was now to begin with this whole thing. But, but bad teams. I do. I mean, it's got to be. I assume it's got to be pretty difficult. Even though these players are making millions and all that, but to be out, and Will Hardy, I feel bad for him too. But there is a horizon. There is an end game to it. I think at least, the organization understands that because they're doing the right thing at this point. And obviously, I think what we're finding out is the fans understand it as well. And you know what, though? Next year's going to be a different story. If they come out and they're playing like garbage, then they're going to feel the heat at that point. But at least, and I give the Jazz credit. I used to clamor about this for the Jazz after the Stock and Malone years. Like, just being 500 is just not going to get you there. You got to tank, and we'd always argue about it. And Sloan obviously would never want that, and and all that. But they're finally doing it right, even with the $500,000 fine and all the scrutiny. It's heading in the right direction, and that's the positive of all this.
Hey, by the way, I did get some clarification in regards to the NBA coming and investigating the Utah Jazz. Okay. So I did have a bit of a conversation, and it said, and essentially, look, the NBA, they always look at MRIs. It's standard operating procedure. If there is an injury or if a guy's going to miss time, you have to submit your MRIs to the league. Nobody's coming into town to break it down. Nobody's coming in and saying, hand over, did you order the code red? Nobody's doing that. It's just if you have an injury that a guy has to sit out, you submit it to the league's medical team, and then they take a look at it, and that's it. So everything's being sent over. Like I said yesterday, I think you just go to your local hospital, you find some trauma patient that just had their hip ripped out of the socket, and you send that in and go, like, look, this is what we're dealing with right now. So that's it. All right.
I almost see the Jazz, by the way, really positive about it when they sent that over to the NBA. They're like, hey, like a report card. When you were a kid, Scotty, when you were struggling to get C's and you were usually a D student, and then when you come home, when you get home, when you come home with that report card with that C, you'd be like, look, Mom and Dad, a C. How excited you were. I bet the Jazz are the same way when they sent that MRI. They're like, look, NBA, it's true. He's actually hurt. Take it. You know what? And he'll be gone for 2 weeks at least. There you go. And they're all smiling parents. So.
Everybody's high-fiving when they see the MRI coming back with damage. Like, yeah, we knew it.
At least, again, bone bruise, I think that's a good one. I like that one. I mean, if it was more serious, obviously that would suck. But, yeah, so I think it's good. I think overall, I've listened to the shows today. We all agree. Good win by losing last night. Shout out to David Locke on the call. Great work, Lloyd. Let's do it again tomorrow.
I like how we're
terrible basketball right now.
I like how we're dragging David into this. David's like, hey, man, I work for these guys. Can you not do this? Like, he's catching strays and all of this.
Shh. He's on the slopes, I'm hoping, today.
Yeah. No,
hopefully he
doubt.
won't hear this.
I think he may have had a TV set and was calling it from the slopes yesterday.
I know.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Believe it or not, this guy actually has friends.
Nice.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountains?
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Scott Garrard alongside Uncle Rico, the former quarterback.
Back in
Kevin
82,
Graham.
I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
28 boom pass on 2. Ready to break. Let's go.
I did score a couple touchdowns, quarterback sneak, and I did throw a touchdown pass in a game too. It was a flat pass, kind of like a quick out, and the guy ran about 60 yards for the score. But
so you're saying in your 4 years of playing quarterback, you did throw a touchdown.
I did. You know what? It was a great. I'll never forget.
You were
this.
a 4-year starter, and you threw one touchdown. One touchdown.
I got 2 on a quarterback sneak. Yeah.
Wait a second. You got to remember, that was back in the day when we weren't running spread offenses like Pee-wee football teams run today.
You were running 24 boom pass.
We were running a T formation, man. And, we didn't even split out receivers. They go to a wing, but I'll remember this. We're playing Barbersville. And the year before, here we go. The year before, Barbersville, killed us.
I'll take this.
We got blown out by Barbersville. And then a year later, we're blowing out Barbersville. It's 30-6. We're winning. And the coach let me start calling the plays. So there's a minute left in the game, and guess what play Kevin calls? I call a pass.
28 boom pass.
No, that was I can't remember I don't know what it was. I called. Actually, all I did is
you called
literally it was
24.
like a pitch. It was almost like a forward pitch, and the guy ran 60 yards for a touchdown, and we win the game 36-6. I'll never forget the Barbersville coach wanted to fight my coach because he thought we were rubbing it in because we called a pass play with a minute left in the game, but that was actually my fault, and I never got to call plays again after that. But yes, it was,
and this
it
part
was
of the
a highlight
show,
moment.
This part of the show is my fault. My bad.
Yeah, Lloyd,
That's
you
my bad.
take ownership
I
on
apologize.
this one. This is on you. And who are we to discredit the beautiful town of Barbersville, West Virginia?
We were Ona. We were the Ona Mustangs. They were the Barbersville Pirates.
Just because you keep repeating these awful names doesn't mean it really actually happened.
Oh, look it up. You can see.
You can say
Google.
these names all you want. It doesn't make it real.
I'm going to Google
Kevin
what? Graham Ona Mustangs and see if it pops up.
I actually, Barbersville looks like a beautiful place.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
It's got population 4,326 in Cable County, West Virginia.
Yes, it's actually Cabell County, but that's okay. If you want to mispronounce one of my hometown growing up in West Virginia, that my home county, that's fine, Scotty. But there it is. There it is. So, yep. That is the Behind Almost Heaven, West Virginia. That's our secondary song, state song.
Oh, you know what? I got to. Hey, Lloyd, I think we may have our hometown, or our not hometown news, but our news story for the day: active garage fire in Barbersville.
Save that 150.
I am sending it to you right now.
And I 100% know what happened. You know what it was? Because everybody hangs out in their garages down there. Instead of hanging in like a family room, you hang in your garage. I don't know why. They do that in Ohio as well. And so I'm sure like somebody, somebody was having a smoke and probably caught the couch on fire in the garage. And
no, what happened is somebody was cooking something like Walter White in their garage.
That could be a possibility as well. Yes, that there is a little bit of that possibly down there. Yes,
exactly.
All right,
happened.
Well, good. Awesome.
I like how we're making small hometown Idaho like the metropolis and the culture city of the world compared to West Virginia. Hey, you know what? So I always, there's a lot of times, I'm not even going to lie. Like, I'm not even blowing smoke here, Kevin. There's a lot of times that something will happen, and I'm like, you know what? I bet KG would lose his mind if he was on the radio right now. Because there's a lot of people that got upset with people booing. Now, BYU got ran off the court against Central Florida.
Yeah, I watched
and they got booed. And then the people are like, hey, you got to support your team. You can't be booing. Hey, as far as I'm concerned, you buy a ticket, as long as you're not dropping, any derogatory terms. If you just are upset because you spent a lot of money on a ticket and your team's not playing well, boo away. I've never had a problem with booing at all.
No, I don't have a problem with booing either. I mean, I have a problem with fans that don't get to the game on time and leave early. I do have a problem with that because, it's like a movie. You should get there before it starts. Does you fans get to the game on time yet? Lloyd, does that happen? I mean,
they did for Texas Tech.
Okay, good.
They did
All
for
right,
that game. They repped, but they do show up. There's a little bit later.
It's not a Utah thing. That's a Mormon Standard Time.
Yeah,
thing.
right.
Okay,
right.
I know. Well, it drives me nuts. I mean, no offense. Like, do you show up 20 minutes late to a movie? No. You get there on time. You want to see from beginning to end. You should support your team that way. But when you're in that stadium and you pay your hard-earned money to be there and your team is not giving you the performance that you want, you should be booing them. If you want. I mean, you don't have to. You can cheer, boo, whatever. But I also think it takes a different turn now. And this is where it's interesting for me because obviously, we did this, last week or whatever, Scotty, when you had me on, we were talking about the things that have changed in sports in Utah since the last time I was there, 13 years ago. Well, obviously a big change in sports is these players are now making money. And so, before you were always, and you put out a tweet on this, and your tweet makes complete sense last week, or after this, or during that BYU UCF game. You're basically making the point of like, hey, these kids are 18 to 22. You're going to have games like this. They're going to be letdowns. They're not going to play defense like they should. You go down the list of all the issues. I mean, Kevin Young was even, saying, how bad they were, and he was also defending the fans and saying they should boo. But it also leads me to this interesting place for me, and I don't know how you guys are handling it now, of how you treat these quote-unquote kids now that they, quite frankly, are quote-unquote professionals. So, while, yes, I think you're going to get sporadic play and whatnot, I think on the flip, and this is the thing that a lot of these players, I think, have to understand, because I know, and obviously fans sometimes will go way overboard, but I do think that this kid thing and their kids and give them a chance, I'm not as fully 100% behind that as much because you know what? These kids are making a heck of a lot of money, or at least some of them are. And so I also believe I'm a big believer you don't get personal, but I've always been a big believer that I think you got to hold players to accountability. And I think nowadays with the fact, and at least this is in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong in thinking this, but because you're making money now, I gloves off. Like, I honestly think that you have every right as a fan. Please don't go over the line and all that. But every right as a fan to definitely be more critical of your team and those quote-unquote kids. And that's just my opinion on it. And again, I don't think, and even for pros, you should never go over the line and make threats, and especially these gamblers who get all ticked off of players and get after them on social media and all this other garbage. I definitely don't believe in that. But I do believe because they make money now, and maybe I'm wrong for believing this, I do think you need to hold them out more accountable. And I think, with that said, BYU played like garbage against UCF. It was inexcusable. It didn't surprise me in some ways because they did beat Iowa State, and that was such a marker win for them. Like, it was a huge win for them. But then they completely wiped it out by coming out and just doing absolutely nothing in that game against UCF. And so I don't fault the BYU fans for booing them at all. And if you're a fan of your team and you still think that's wrong, obviously you have that right, and I can't fault you for that. But I also will not fault other fans that want to boo their team and hold these guys accountable to play better. Because you know what? You're representing the school, and some of these players are making more money than you, I, and many of those fans will make in their lifetime. That's just a fact now.
Well, and that, to me, that's the point, because there was the unwritten rule of broadcasting or media coverage where back in the day, even 5 years ago, you didn't go after a player specifically. Like if a quarterback was 3 of 10, threw 2 pick sixes, and got pulled in the second quarter, you don't be like, this miserable SOB. They got to cut his scholarship, get him off of there. Blah 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 blah. Like essentially you treat Jets quarterbacks. Like you can't. You try to have a little bit of just recognition. Like, hey, look, the guy's still an amateur. He's a college student. Show a little bit of restraint when you're going after a kid. But you're right. Now that the guy's making way more money than the average American, way more opportunities out there for them, I think that it's okay to, we asked them to be an adult. Well, it's okay. You got to get treated like an adult. You're going to get paid that much money. And as a professional in the media, Well, okay, let's just take, the professional part. Working in the media, you realize that the gloves do come off a little bit. And as a fan, I think it can come off with you as well. And certainly in our profession, there's been a little bit of a shift, Kevin. And look, you've been in the industry a long, long time, and I think you get the sense that there's a new higher level of accountability with what is brought to the table for these kids just based on their level of professionalism now.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. And especially, some of these kids, they have sponsors now or backing or whatever the case might be. And obviously coaches still always, and we're seeing this with coaches. They hate the fact now they're not the control freaks they used to be able to be, where they could just control everything for the kid's life for 4 years. They don't have that ability anymore. But, coaches have always, to the right, they always will take more of the accountability and blame, when teams lose. And, of course, they take most of the credit, or they give the credit to the players, but really they're taking the credit for the wins. So I think in the end, you're 100% right. If you're going to get paid and you are a professionalism, or you're a professional, and I think this is for any job, really. You need to be held accountable. And I believe the role of the media still, in addition to at least our role, I don't know if you want to consider us media per se as a talk show host, but entertainers and opinions and trying to make people think and of course disagree, and I'm not always right and you're not always right, and fans aren't always right, but sometimes fans are and we're wrong. Whatever the case might be, I think the end game is if a player goes out and doesn't play well, then that player needs to be held accountable. And right now, I'll throw it out right now. Like, since that Colorado game, I think a player, and I think one of the reasons that BYU is struggling a bit, I think you really got to put it on Robert Wright. As I'm looking at his statistics and seeing what he's played, in that Colorado game, obviously when Saunders went down, he just shot the floor out. He shot 75% in that game, did Wright. He ended up with 39 points. Well, since that game, Scotty, he has shot 32% from the floor. His season average, by the way, is 47%. He's 18.9%, Scotty, from three-point land. He's 43% on the season. And he's averaging 15 points per game, where his average is 18. So, when he went down, I think one of the players everyone circled, in addition to, obviously, to DeBonsa having to pick up the pace, which he has, you also needed Robert Wright to step up. And he hasn't. And in addition to that, the other three starters, at least that game against UCF, we're 5 of 14 with 14 points. That was it. You got to do it. But right now, I think, you can't. DeBonsa right now seems to be the only guy that's stepped up right now. And he's forcing stuff at times. And he still has that issue where he lets the refs get in his head, which he's got to definitely work on. But Robert Wright, I think, is a player that really, if I'm going to hold somebody accountable, I'm looking at him and saying, man, you're the number 2 guy on this team. You got to step up. You lost 18 points, 5.8 rebounds, 2 assists, and you lost a guy who was shooting at a 38% clip from three-point land in Richie Saunders. You got to step it up, and in my opinion, he hasn't, and he's going to have to. In this game, against West Virginia on the road, my Mountaineers, my home state of WVU, the school I probably would have been the starting quarterback for if I didn't move to Detroit when I was 14. That's a team that they need to beat. That's a team that's struggling and has lost 3 in a row. They've lost 4 of their last 5. That's a team they need to beat. Now, on the flip side of that, though, is West Virginia is 13-3 at home. Their losses coming to Ohio State, Taylor, and Texas Tech. Baylor, rather, and Texas Tech. So, not terrible teams that they lost to. But, and BYU's 3-4 on the road. So, BYU, they cannot lose to WVU.
No.
Not after that UCF loss.
No.
This is a must-win. If there's any must-win game, that's a must-win game. Not only for tournament seeding, but obviously looking at the NCAA tournament and that seeding and what they can do. They got to win out. They got to beat them. They got to beat Cincinnati, who's won 4 of 5. And Cincinnati's got, Oklahoma State tomorrow at home. And then, of course, they got to beat Texas Tech at the end. And, by the way, Texas Tech's won 2 in a row since they lost their best player and arguably the Big 12's best player in Toppin. So, and they got to play at number 4 Iowa State tomorrow. So that's going to be a huge game to keep an eye on. So, go ahead.
You talk about must win, and by the way, I fully agree with you. And it's not because, BYU will make the NCAA tournament. They're getting in. They could lose out the rest of the way and lose the first game in the Big 12. They're still in the NCAA tournament. They're fine in that regard. But here's the thing. If you're going to go in limping into the NCAA tournament, we talked all along, and maybe the problem, I don't mean to go Taylor Swift here, but maybe the problem was us, that we hyped up this team beginning of the season, and because the expectations were Elite Eight, maybe even Final Four. If last year's team made it to the Sweet 16, just imagine what this team should be able to do. And so all the expectations were through the roof. And if this team ends up as a 8-9 seed in the tournament, that means you're going to get bounced in the next round when you play a 1 seed in the second round. And that's if you make it to the round of 32. So limping into the tournament the way that BYU could be at that point just isn't going to get it done. And that's not the steps you need to take in as an organization, especially with the payroll that you've been throwing into that program. And I love the fact they're doing it. I love the fact that BYU is now in a situation where they can throw money around like crazy. But you got to have an ROI, or else you have a lot of people like, hey, look, we gave you a lot of money, and we wanted to be enjoying a Final Four weekend, and we don't want to get bounced in the first or second round. That's not what we paid for. That's what we got in the West Coast Conference, and we were okay with it back then. Not okay with it now. That ain't going to fly. All right, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, which you may have missed, coming up next right here on The Zone.
You're listening to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, because Kevin is with us, and Kevin's one of the most giving, caring people that we know, we've got tickets to give away.
Thank you.
Lloyd has got a 4-pack of RSL tickets to the home opener. Seattle, the Sounders are rolling into town. You want tickets, all you have to do is be caller number 12. That's right. Call right now and grab those tickets, and you're off and running. It's really that simple. And, by the way, I'm going to add to it a little bit because we are live here at Tim Daly Mazda Southtown. If you come on down and you claim those tickets here, we'll give you away. We got a bunch of them. Brant here has got a big stack of tickets, and we'll hook you up. Wow, he's actually got a bunch of them. 801-575-ZONE. Call right now. Get that 4-pack of tickets over the phone. And if you can't, if Lloyd decides he doesn't like you enough and you don't win those tickets, then don't worry. Just come on down here, and we'll give them to you at Tim Daly Mazda Southtown. All right. By the way, the NFL salary cap. You know what? It is good to be the NFL. They now have over a $300 million salary cap, Kevin. It is doubled in 10 years. 10 years ago, 2016, it was around $155 million. Now they just broke $300 million on the NFL salary cap. It's a good time to be a player. It's a good time to be an owner in the league.
Yep, and as a Jets fan, they'll still figure out a way to screw it up and spend $300 million on a bunch of crappy players. But, yes, I 100% agree with you. Like, I mean, the NFL rules the world. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, so, and they are cashing in. And, out of all athletes, I've always said this, and I'll continue to say it, NFL players deserve, in my opinion, the most money because they're the ones that are literally taking years off their life to play this sport. And the fact that the pie is continuing to increase for everyone, I think it's great. Now, I think all of us can agree we're not always in agreement with the NFL does and how they're doing it and how they bully and they do whatever they can to make this money. But the fact that they're cashing in does not surprise me one iota, and it is good. And it's good for a fan of your team because now you can hold your team accountable because now they got $300 million to spend. If you're a Broncos fan with a good coach and a good organization, even though I despise all of you, you guys know that you're going to be taken care of. As a Jets fan and Lloyd being a Raiders fan, we know that's not going to happen, and we're still going to suck. But it's $300 million, and so I think it's I said this yesterday, the cap is a big. It's why the NFL, in a lot of ways, is the best, most competitive professional league, in sports because, every team has essentially the same amount of money that they spend on players, and that means that it's the organization, the ownership, the organization. The coaching, the players, and every team has a shot, and that's why you have such parity in the league, and that's why you have the highest ratings you have in the league, and the structure of it's perfect because it's just once a week, kind of like college football, and if college football would get their acts together and follow the NFL kind of way of thinking, college football, I think, could be in the same boat where players and schools and everybody could all profit even more than they're profiting now.
I agree with everything you said. That shot on the Raiders was completely unnecessary.
Easy now. On
yeah,
that one.
because
Easy on that
you got not
sorry.
only Lloyd, but you got Jake. And Jake knows that I have nothing but, as a Broncos fan, I have nothing but love and admiration for the Raiders.
You're such a liar.
Fernando Mendoza is going to turn that program around.
Scotty, I'm going to punch you right in the baby maker.
Hey, Jake, I want to let you know, I've been to the new stadium there twice, once to see the 49ers and once to see my Jets actually lose to the Raiders, which was sad. And I would say about 65 to 70% of the stadium were the fans of the Jets and the
other
Niners.
team.
So,
that's
yeah,
right. So
I've
I've been 3 or 4 times, and it's the same thing. And that welcome to Vegas, right? I guess that's why it's increased so much.
Beautiful stadium.
Beautiful
setup
stadium.
and stadium, but you lost Raider Nation. I mean, that just stinks for the Raiders.
You'll never lose Raider Nation.
I mean,
facts. Those are facts.
Yeah, right. You're never going to
when
lose
they were
Raider
playing,
Nation.
when they played at the Coliseum, you feared for your life if you were an opposing
For sure.
team member.
Yeah. In Oakland, yeah.
And now it's like we
you
rule.
get stabbed.
Well, no, so I took my kid.
It's because us Raider fans can't afford it, okay?
Well,
Jeez,
and there's that, that mingling with other convicted convicts and parole hearings and
That's
stuff
right.
like that.
That's
You
right.
know, there's some issues there.
Well, they don't allow people in with shanks, so
And
we're not allowed in those anymore.
You can't
dang
cross
security.
state lines. From California, there's a lot of things.
Listen, I'm gonna shank you if you don't keep running your mouth over there, buddy. Remember, I'm a Raider
Hey, I have
fan.
a Mazda.
Yeah, you're good, but I'm gonna shank Scotty.
Yeah.
Scotty.
Hey, Jake,
Okay, yeah,
wait till we have video of this on remotes. Then you can shake him.
Done. Whatever you want to do, Lloyd. I'm your guy.
Oh, man.
I'll deliver the shank.
Whether you're Broncos, Raiders, there's no Jets fans around here, but whatever the fan of a team you are,
I mean,
you're going to sell him a vehicle.
I got to give your boy credit, though, man. He's the last of the Mohicans, a Jets fan.
I know, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I could have picked
hanging-
any team. I was growing up in West Virginia. I could have picked any team at the age of like 5 years old, and I picked the wrong
Jets.
team. And I'm a miserable human because of it.
I mean,
I
that's
think
where-
I hope you're not raising your kids as Raiders fans. I've already gave Lloyd a lot of flack because his kids are Raiders fans. It's
Yes,
that's the most.
My kids are old now, but yes, they're all Raiders fans.
Oh, see, you ruined them. Like, that's the most important thing as a parent, in my opinion, that you impart
Kevin,
on your
there's
children.
a line here, like Jake is still a sponsor. We can kind of find that edge, but then when you talk about his parenting skills, it's like,
Hey, listen, listen. I'll be the first to admit. I mean, my kids at least understand what true failure feels like. You know what I mean? So there's nothing but up from there.
well,
All right, great
considering my
point,
kids
great
have
point.
half my DNA. They understand what failure's all about.
I mean, listen, I've been a Raiders fan my entire life. I'm 47 years old, and last time they won the Super Bowl, I was 4. So, I mean, come on, buddy.
Wow.
I get it.
All right.
I get it.
Okay, I got it. I wasn't born when the Jets last won, so I can relate to you there. All right.
I mean, the Raiders and the Jets are where players go to die, right? Where their careers go to
pretty much.
die.
That's
I
true.
know.
That's true.
I mean,
that's
it's pretty.
where Pete Carroll went to die.
Well, Pete
It's always
Carroll's already
scary.
dead.
Yeah, it's always scary that the best quarterback you guys have on your roster is your owner. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you're
holy
part
tomato.
owner. I mean,
Yeah,
when
Tom Brady.
When Tom
well, he's
Brady.
the GOAT.
Yeah, you should just let him get him back on the field. You'd be better.
That's right.
You'd
Yeah,
win.
Tom, just come out of retirement, buddy, and
Yes.
just sling that rock for us a little bit.
Exactly.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
Aiden O'Connell's way better than Tom Brady.
Shut up, Scotty. Shank him,
Shut
Jake.
up, Scott. I can now? All right, getting shanked. Shank is happening.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, it's been kind of fun because Kevin hasn't been on the air in a long time. Kevin Graham hanging out with us yesterday, today, and I've got a sneaking suspicion we'll get him on quite a bit over the next little bit. And by the way, I just signed you up for more shows, Kevin. I hope you just realize
Great.
that.
You know what? You're paying me so much money. I'm so excited about that.
That's Lloyd. That's Lloyd's call. I'll let Lloyd handle all of that.
Yeah, send me the invoice.
Yeah.
I'll send it to the garbage.
Yeah, by the way, so Ron McBride, you like this. Ron McBride does a lot of stuff with us during the football season, and we would pay Ron for his time. And then he started coming and giving me these envelopes, and I'm like, oh, it's like a Christmas card from Coach McBride and Vicky. That's awesome. And I opened it up. It was an invoice for mileage. And I'm like, whoa. We didn't sign off on this. And that's why I'm like, just give it to Lloyd. Lloyd will handle it.
That's right. Okay, got you. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
But
All right,
it's always fun introducing Kevin to some of the staples on our station, like the legend, Jay Stevens, hockey insider, host of the Utah Puck Report. Jay, how you doing, man?
I am doing spectacular. Just glad to be here talking about hockey and talking about the Mammoth again.
How about that? Now,
I've heard Jay. By the way, I've heard Jay, and he's really good. So, again,
great.
Yeah. See, Jay, I have a little bit of hockey knowledge. I used to cover the Red Wings back in the 90s, a long time ago.
Wow.
Like the Stevie Y days, and
the
Larry
glory
Arnoff and Fedorov. Yeah, Hockey Town. Yeah, so that's definitely Hockey Town. It's good to actually see the Red Wings good again, so I'm happy to see that as well. So,
Jay, I'm sorry, go ahead. No, all you, buddy.
I was just going to say the 90s with those Red Wings that you're talking about, and those just legendary series against the Colorado Avalanche.
Oh, yeah.
Just, to be in that building or be covering those teams back then would have just been magical. It had to have been.
Oh, it was. I mean, and I love it. And as I'm trying to impart to Utahns, it's like, man, I mean, have good, I like the broadcast teams they've assembled here because they talk hockey in a way that beginners can follow, but also people that are familiar with the game. You're not really talking down to them. That it's a good balance that all you guys are doing. And it's a great game, and it's a sport that I've been saying all along to anybody to listen. If you just get in the building and see it live, you're hooked. And then you could follow it a little bit better on TV because, as you know, hockey sometimes can be a challenge for some, following the puck and all that stuff. But, man, just get there and feel it. And once you do, you will follow it, via podcast, via on TV, everywhere else, because it will hook you. I mean, it just does.
Yeah, it's been really surprising to see how many people, they tell me all the time, they go to a Mammoth game, they've never been to a hockey game, and they're huge hockey fans. And the old president of the Utah Grizzlies, Jared Youngman, he used to say, everybody's a hockey fan. Some people just don't know it yet. And it just takes exposure to the game, and especially going live. And the Delta Center has just that unique energy. It feels like playoff energy almost every game of the year. So if they make the playoffs this year, I can't even imagine what it's going to feel like in there.
So this team coming off the Olympic break, and they get thrown right to the Wolves right out of the gate, playing the Avalanche, best team in the NHL. They lose that game 4-2. Is that a little bit of what you expected when you play a team like that, especially coming off the break?
Yeah, it was. I was worried about them having to go up against the Avalanche right away because, that's just a tough task for anybody at any point of the season. The Avalanche are just so dialed in. And they got Landeskog back, which is huge for them. They'd only lost 2 games in regulation when they had Landeskog in the lineup normally. So getting him back after injuries was huge for them. I knew that Utah had an uphill battle. But to see the lack of cohesion between the team was a little surprising to me. But, you take 20-plus days off, you add Cooley back, and you add Kerfoot back, which are just huge positives overall. But, it takes a second for everybody to get lined up and get that cohesion back. And I think that's what the Utah fans saw. I think Utah put a pretty good battle in, and they kept getting close, but that killer instinct of Colorado just seemed to score every time Utah started getting some momentum. So, yeah, it was a rough start back, but, it just kind of went how people thought it would go. So, and we're back at it and moving on to the next game. And I was at the last 2 practices, and I think the team looks dialed in, and they're starting to get that cohesion back. And so tonight should be a lot of fun.
How long will it take, you think, in your experience, to get that cohesion after a 3-week? And of course, obviously, Scotty, with the new players coming back or players coming back healthy, how long, in your opinion, does it take?
Yeah, it should only take – I mean, these guys are pros, and they play together a lot. I think what you saw was just so much rust, and I think most of that rust will be off. They had a really intense practice, and I was talking to Ian Cole yesterday after practice, and I asked him, I said, I don't know that I've ever seen an NHL practice that intense with that. There was full contact, and you had spicy tuna laying the body on guys that normally would be, it would not be acceptable to hit, Dylan Gunther in practice. But it was an intense practice, and I said, what was the deal with that? And he said, well, it was our game last night, and it was our meeting this morning, and we just needed to hone in and trim that fat that we had and any of those we got to handle the puck better, and we got to be better in our zone. And that was the message, and the message was read loud and clear. And I think that practice and then the practice this morning, you could see the guys were, gelling. You could see a lot more of the passing was more crisp, and it looked like the old team was back.
Was that driven by the players or the coaching staff to try to ramp up that practice?
I think it was both. I think the leadership of the team was telling the rest of the team that wasn't a good enough effort. And then, Bear, as nice as he is to interview, he sure is scary when he wants something out of the team. I can't imagine what a closed-door meeting would be like with him. But we could sit and listen to practice, and he was yelling and screaming, and he'd stop practice and go over the minute details. If guys missed, if they were just off by an inch, he would stop and yell and make them start over again. So I think everybody had the same message. Everybody got it in their head, and I think you'll see a better effort tonight out of the Mammoth.
Of course, the Mammoth, getting tonight, trying to get to and stay in the playoff chase, which I believe they're going to do. But how important is it, in your opinion, to get that number one or stay at the number one wild card position as opposed to falling and having to play Colorado in the playoffs?
Yeah, that's the deal, right? It's super important to first off make the playoffs. There are 24 games left for the Mammoth. They got to, they're at 64 points now. We want to be in that 93 to 96 points. So you got to win 15 or 16 of the next 24 games. Otherwise, you are going to end up playing the Avalanche. Or maybe, the teams at the top are at the top for a reason. It's not going to be easy when you go in as a wild card. So it's important to try to take a team that's not as good as the Avalanche. And a team like Minnesota that's coming in tonight, who is that number 2 team in the West. And they're a dialed-in team. They beat the Avalanche last night, and they looked really good doing it. They did it with Philip Gustafsson in net, who still is technically their starter. But you've been seeing a lot of this. Jesper Wallstedt has kind of been taking over the net for Colorado. So you just look at how deep Colorado is, and you look at how deep Dallas is, and Utah seems to match up better against Minnesota. So that would be the preferred matchup, I think.
Jay Stevens, he hosts the Utah Puck Report, one of our hockey insiders at KSLSports.com, does tremendous work covering this Utah Mammoth team. All right, so as you look at you look at where Veggie's at, you look at where he needs to be, kind of give us your thought of how Utah's looking in between the pipes coming down the stretch in this thing.
Yeah, Veggie continues to impress. This is his first season as a sanctioned starter. And with that comes a lot more pressure than people are used to. If you're a backup, you get to kind of coast and play, and you're always fighting to be the starter. But once you're actually the starter, and he's carrying a lot of games, it's just, you're not used to seeing a starting goalie take this many games. And it's nothing against Vanacek. He's a phenomenal backup goaltender. But Utah, the edges are so thin on where we can win and lose. You feel like Veggie has to be in the net every night. And I think Veggie knows he has to be in the net almost every night. You just need that 1 to 2 more saves that you probably wouldn't get from a backup goalie. So transitioning and taking on that pressure, I think Veggie's done a great job at understanding that role. I watch him in practice. He comes in and he starts with the minute details. And I always film it and send it to people that used to go to my goalie camps. And I say, see, even at the NHL level, they start at these basic puck acceptance drills and rebound control drills, just a simple drill. Somebody will shoot a nice soft puck, you kick it in the corner and watch it. So he's still dialed in on all those tiny little details, even though it looks like he's going to play 70 games this year, 65 to 70 games. So to see a guy get on the ice when he could be resting and take all those shots, and he takes it really serious, and he looks good. He looks healthy. Rebounds are his friend right now, and he's getting some good bounces. So I think he's really coming into his own. I think we've seen it with Cooley, and we've seen it with Keller, where they've seemed to elevate their game in the last few games that they've played, especially Cooley just being back. He looked phenomenal the other night. And I think you're going to see the same out of Veggie. I think you're going to see him continue to get better and better. Ideally, we'd like to see him finish with a 92% or a 93% save average. And right now he's hovering right at that 90%.
Jay, and piggyback off Scotty's question on that, one of the best postseasons, I believe, is the NHL. And a lot of times it's because it's one of those postseasons where some of these teams that are like 8 seeds will knock, or lower seeds, I should say, based on the way playoffs now go, will knock off a 1 seed and surprise them, and sometimes even win cups. And as we saw with the USA team, just winning the gold recently, a lot of that is because of the goaltender. I mean, that it's as important. The goaltender is as important to hockey as the quarterback is the NFL, if not even more so. And we saw how hot Hellebuck got, and that was the primary reason why the USA were able to beat a Canadian team that really dominated that match for the most part. Does Veggie have it in him to be hot, that hot goaltender from a standpoint, when if they can get to the playoffs, to pull off those upsets and make a run?
Yeah, I really believe he does, and we've seen that at times where he seems to find the zone. There's been a few games last season, a couple games this season where he refused to lose. And as goalies, we call it unscoreable. You just start feeling like every puck's hitting you, and even when you don't play it exactly right, somehow it stays out. And you've seen Veggie do that. I think he is the type of goaltender that can get really hot, and he does seem to like to play a lot of games in a row. That's that part where the playoffs are different than the regular season. Typically, you have a guy go 3-4 games, and then he sits a night. Well, that doesn't happen in the playoffs, and Veggie's built for that. He seems to be just really, wanting the net every night. He doesn't want the rest. He doesn't seem to need the rest. So I think he's built for one of those playoff runs, and I think if Utah can get into the playoffs and Veggie hits that next level, that makes Utah dangerous. And like the saying goes, goaltending 70% of your game. Unless you don't have it, then it's 100%. And I think Veggie can be that guy that wins games and steals a series for the Utah Mammoth.
Jay, we appreciate it as always, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's do it again here soon.
Absolutely. Lots of hockey to talk about.
Let's do it.
Thanks, Jay.
Jay Stevens. Utah Puck Report right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, and again over at KSLSports.com. You talk about the broadcast crew for the Mammoth who do a tremendous job, and, of course, you hear the radio here on the Zone. Not talking down. Like, Jay has every right to come in and look at me and hands back in the day and just say, you guys are morons. You bunch of football-loving idiots. I don't have time to talk to you and teach you about the game, but Jay has been incredibly cool. And he's a guy that's put on the goaltending uniform. He's put on the pads. He knows what it's about. And he's been so cool to us and our listeners. We can't thank him enough. He's a really good dude, man. You'll love chatting with him if you get up close in person, because that is a dude that just loves, eats, breathes hockey. And he doesn't care how much you know about hockey. He'll sit down and he'll talk to you nonstop about it.
Yeah, media is very much like I was talking yesterday with you, Scotty, about players and my days of covering hockey, in Detroit. I just loved covering hockey because the players were great. I mean, they're great interviews. Like I said, we're seeing it now with Jack Hughes and this USA team and how grateful they are. And it's the same thing, I think, for players translates to the media. There's such an appreciation and love for that sport, and because it's an underdog sport. I mean, it's been number 4 in our world for years. Behind the obviously football and baseball and basketball, but the media they want the best for the sport too, and I think you're finding that out. Obviously locally, but even nationally, a lot of these guys, especially the big time guys, they're still very humble, and they're very, very, very loose with their time, and they're very willing to give their insights and try to continue to build this sport because they take such pride in it.
Well, and you compare that to soccer fans who are snobby and just want to run you down for asking any questions about their sport. And no, look, I mean, in all seriousness, like I have nothing but love for our good friends over at RSL. But boy, you say, hey, what is this? Like, how dare you waste our time with this? Like, soccer fans, like, hey, man, I don't know who crowned you king of all things, but just dial it down here. Work with me a little bit.
No, 100%. And that's the problem that I always had when I was back in Salt Lake with Real Salt Lake fans. I'd go to battle with them on this because, they would clamor and argue. And maybe it's changed because, RSL's now a well-established franchise, obviously, in Salt Lake. It's a beautiful stadium. I enjoyed always going to a game there. Another sport for me that I enjoy more in person than I do on TV, unless it's played at the highest level, which is, Premier League. MLS has come a long way, obviously, but World Cup, I love the World Cup, even though we stink at it on the men's side. I love the women's side because we're good. but yeah, 100%. I just go to battle because they'd want coverage, but then when you give them coverage, they get mad at you because you don't understand the sport, or if you're critical in any way, they would take it like personally. And it's like, no, like if you, and I say this, and I'm seeing it with women's sports now, and I think women's sports now, as women's sports have grown, and rightfully so, and the game has gotten so much better, particularly on the basketball level. I used to call Central Michigan women's Lady Chippewa basketball games back in the day, and call Big Ten games on TV when I was in Detroit years ago, and just to see the quality play and how much it's improved from then to now, and the women, I'm seeing it with women sometimes that I see with soccer fans, is that they don't like the criticism, and I'm telling you, when fans and media start criticizing you and start criticizing the way the games are going, or the Caitlin Clark incidents and all that, that's a good thing.
Yes.
That means you're being accepted.
Yeah.
That means that, like, you're getting more fans that are starting to put more of a critical eye, but not even a critical eye. It means they're starting to get passionate about you. And so I say that to the soccer fans still. It's like, man, when Scotty and I are going off, or any media member are going off on the game or what happened or whatever the case might be, that is a good thing. That's exposure for your sport, whether it's good or bad. At least it's being talked about. Because the worst thing you want is to become irrelevant. We're not even talking about you, and or you're not even being written about, or you don't have podcasters focusing on you now, because the new media obviously is completely different than what the traditional media was. It's a good thing. And so it does drive me nuts when I see these sports that are emerging and growing getting mad about being criticized. It's not a bad thing, guys. That's a great thing. So I'm hoping the soccer community isn't as bad that way. I mean, you know better than me, being there for the last 13, or me being gone for 13 years, Scotty, but it's a good thing. I'm telling you, it is a good thing.
That's what I tell my kids when, my youngest playing football. He's like, man, coach was really riding me today. I'm like, hey, it's better he's yelling at you than not yelling at you.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as he's not yelling at you, that means your playing time is gonzo. Like, you're done.
Exactly. It means he's coaching you. It means he cares, actually.
Yeah.
So
All right,
I kind of like you say the same thing when you're yelling at him, Scotty, for not mowing the lawn or something.
Yeah. I know.
You love them, you care about them. You want them to do your job. So
that last part's very true. Yeah. Actually,
I wish I had a boy. I never had a boy. I wish I had a boy just to be able to do those things for me, because my girls just did not have the ability to do it.
You're
just didn't want to do it.
You just can't scream at your daughters to go out and mow the lawn.
No.
It just doesn't, I know we're getting progressive as a society, but still we're not quite at that point yet where you're like, hey, get your butt out there and go mow the lawn. Like,
yeah, they just look at you like, no, Dad, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's fine.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're listening to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Scott Garrard, Kevin Graham's hanging out with us today. Appreciate Kevin being a part of the show, getting him back into the Salt Lake media. It's been a minute. Although a lot of people have been like, well, I've been hearing Kevin with DJ and PK all throughout the football season. And yes. That is true. It's
been fun. It's always a interesting dichotomy, getting on with DJ and PK, because of course PK is going to do everything he can to manipulate you into into directions that you probably shouldn't go. But I've enjoyed it a lot, actually. So they're fun.
Well, and
Legends.
DJ's got all these plans for you in the fall.
I know.
And,
I know. I'm excited.
And he's like, well, you can't have him. And I'm like, this doesn't have to turn into like co-parenting. We're not dropping Kevin off at the McDonald's, on every other weekend. Like we can make this work.
Oh yeah, so. I've definitely. I mean, yeah, DJ's talked to me about some of those plans. It'll be a lot of fun. So I hope it comes to fruition. So.
All right. So I want to look. I know people. You just mentioned President Trump and all hell breaks loose. Look, I'm just sharing a story, okay? And so please do not get fired up. I know everybody's got a really razor hair trigger finger on this stuff these days, but President Trump has said that he wants to take a look at college sports, save college sports. He's wanting to put a committee together, and 35 people have received invitations. You ready for this list?
Yep.
Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, New York Yankees president Randy Levine, golfer Tiger Woods. Tiger, why?
me.
Okay. Anyway.
I mean, he played golf at Stanford, so he was in college.
Sure, yeah. And then you got, Nick Saban, Mac Brown, Urban Meyer. Fine, that makes
Perfect.
sense. College Football Playoff Selection Committee, Condoleezza Rice. New England Patriot President Jonathan Kraft. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver.
Well, that discredits the entire committee right there, by the way. But continue, sorry.
And they're like, well, Adam, what do you think? He's like, well, I think we should find the Jazz. You're like, well, no, this is college football. I don't care. Can we find the Jazz? All right.
No, what I think is we need to find Utah State because they didn't play a certain player at a certain time. That's what we need. Okay, yeah.
Utah Tech. Let's bring the hammer down on them. Fox Sports President Eric Shanks, ESPN Chairman Jimmy Pitaro, several athletic directors, including Notre Dame's athletic director, and you got former athletes like Tim Tebow and Charlie Ward. That's a blast from the past. I haven't even thought of that guy. He played for the Knicks, for crying out loud. He did win a Heisman at Florida State, but okay, this all this is a dog and pony show. And all this is a bunch of people trying to get together, and this is what happens in politics. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. They want to act like they're doing something, and in reality, they're not doing anything. They're just going to say, hey, we're going to get a bunch of people together, and we're going to give them a free trip to D.C., and we're going to give them a free meal, and we're going to have a lot of photo opportunities. And at the end of the day, is anything going to change? No. Nothing is going to change. And it just takes somebody to figure out a way to get this thing fixed. You came up with a brilliant idea yesterday. It'll never happen.
I'm offended. I'm offended I was not voted and
Yes.
not getting an invite to be a part of this roundtable, quite frankly. But continue, yes.
You're the only one that actually has ideas. Everybody knows it needs to be fixed, but everybody's like, well, I can't do that. And the NCAA's like, well, they'll just sue us. And they have, and they'll lose every case out there. And so nobody wants to do anything, but everybody's complaining about it. Well, you just need somebody to step in. I don't care if it's President Trump. I don't care if it's Congress. I don't care who it is. Somebody just step in and fix the sport we all know and love.
I hate politics, and I had to take a detour in my career for 5 years to oversee 2 news talk stations. It was the most miserable 5 years of my life. I can't stand it. All right, so I'm just laying that right out there. I'm not going to go into a political tangent, but you hit it right on the nose, Scotty. There's a thing called, it's a word, photo op, like you said, photo opportunity. This is all this is. And guess what? The reason this is happening and why the politics are happening now, there's this important thing coming up called the midterm. It's an election. Everybody can go out. If you hate the politicians are in there, then go vote. Vote them out. Vote whoever you want in. Do whatever you need to do to change the world how you see it. So it's a popularity thing. It's for votes. It's for fans because the majority of the fans, well, I don't say majority. I would say majority of the fans, depending where you go, want to see some kind of change to make this a little more fair. So they're trying to get votes. This is what they're doing. I will say this from a positive standpoint, at least it's a start. At least then we're starting to at least the government, and I don't have a lot of faith in the government, but at least the government, I have a faith in any politician, to be honest with you, but at least they're starting to look at it. And the only reason that I am even semi on board for the government to step in is because college athletics, they can't figure it out themselves. You know what I mean? Like they're, here is supposed to be the elite of the elite, being scholar athletes and all these people at universities and all this. And you're supposed to be able to, educate and be the smartest humans in the world. And yet you can't figure out how to fix college football or college athletics in general. So if the government has to step in to add some sanity to this, then let's bring it, because obviously the people on board with it can't do it. There's too many outside interests, too many CYAs out there.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody wants their piece of the pie, and they're trying to protect their piece of the pie. And until they all come together as a sport, like we said when we were talking about the NFL and the salary cap and everything else just a segment or two ago, Scotty, you know what? Until they kind of build a model that kind of goes with that, then it's just going to continue to be an existence of just craziness. And so at least something's happening, but I don't understand why so many people are being invited. And again, though, I do understand because it's photo op. Tiger Woods is there with President Trump being surrounded by all these college football people and his buddy Jonathan Kraft, the owner of the Patriots. And, again, Adam Silver, I do not understand at all. But, yeah, Fox Sports chairman, ESPN chairman, heck yeah, those two better be in that meeting. Those two can be responsible and honestly a lot of people will point the fingers at those two for the reason that college football in particular is the way it is. So, yeah, I get that. But at least if this gets enough attention outside the stupid photo op and trying to get votes, if it at least gets enough attention and then Congress picks it up and starts rolling with it, at least something could maybe change. Could change for the worse, but at least, in my opinion, I don't know if it can get any worse.
Yeah,
at least the way the dynamics of the sport's great, on the field's great, but the dynamics of this is terrible. So if they can figure out a way to just to rein it in, come up with some direction, come up with some unity, then if this is the start of it, then go. Let's see what we can do.
Well, so we can argue about everything in politics right now. Like, you can't throw out anything. Like, we got people arguing over USA winning gold medals in the Olympics. Like, we find ways to argue about everything. If there's one thing that's bringing everybody together right now, it's that we all think college football is a mess. We all think college athletics sucks right now in terms of the administration of everything. You're right. The product on the field court, awesome. Everything else around it is a complete dumpster fire. That's the one thing that we can all agree on. So if you want to win, if you're a congressman right now and you want an easy win out there, fix this because it'll bring everybody together. Everybody loves college football. Everybody loves college. Well, not everybody loves college basketball, but we all like college athletics. If you wanted to bring right, left, everybody together, it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to fix college football. God bless you. I don't care if you're red, blue, whatever. You got my vote if you can fix this.
Agree, 100%. You can't say it better than that because it's just, and I think fans would agree. And I don't know if fans would vote. Depending on where you lean, obviously you're gonna lean your way. But just get it started. Just get the discussion started. And if anything, it may not be Congress that has to actually put the hammer down, but if they could start applying pressure at least, and the threat to all these administrators that, you know what, if you do not figure this out sooner than later, we're coming in with the hammer. So get ready, people. And anything to get it started. And at least you hope this goes that way, even though it is just a complete dog and pony show.
Hey, you know what? If Tiger Woods can fix it, then fine. You know what? Give him free meals at Perkins the rest of his life. I don't care. But, whatever. Just, look, I don't care who fixes it. I just want it fixed. Tiger, Adam Silver's not fixing nothing, but whatever. Yeah. All right. Coming up next, another edition of Whole World News. Mitch Harper, Cougar Insider, will join us at 2:05. It's all right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is another edition of Whole World News, spanning the globe to at least try to amuse one Kevin Graham, who joins us on today's show.
All right, listeners.
That too. But I'm just trying to impress Kevin. All right, so, in fact, we want to impress him so much. Our story today, let's go to Barberville, West Virginia. Am I saying that right?
Barbersville. Barbers.
Oh, my bad. So there's
home
multiple...
of the Pizza Hut. Home of the Pizza Hut we used to go to after one of our after all my Little League games, by the way. And they were our rival, by the way, growing up as a kid. I just want you to know that. Continue.
Okay, so there's multiple barbers in Barbersville. Okay.
There's not. Whatever. And this is all started because you guys doubted my quarterback.
Said you were in high school. This is not high school. These guys look like they're 10.
No, that's what I told. No, Lloyd, this is where you don't listen. I said I was a quarterback in Pee Wee football, all right? 4 years. I was too small and slow to be in high school. So, and you two then jumped all over me about the quarterback thing because then, of course, I couldn't throw the ball because I was short and, I could only throw it like 3 yards down the field. And you guys you doubted that is what you doubted.
Yeah, I know, that's true.
So, And so now if you go to K Graham Content on X, I have put the picture out so you can see I'm number 12 in the team photo, Ona Mustangs, 28 boom pass. If you look at the photo, number 20 was the guy, Bobby Ray, who I'd pitch it to, and he would throw the ball. But, yes, I was a quarterback.
See, you said you were number 14.
Well, that was my
you. Did say 14.
I was the backup quarterback that first year. So I was a backup for a year and then a starter for 4 years. So there you go. So K. Graham contact. I never said it was high school.
Hey,
no,
I don't know. Look, 60's got a lot of helmet stickers there. You don't have any helmet stickers.
Yeah, what are those for being a quarterback for 4 years?
All I see is 60. 60 looks like he's holding down the fort there. Everybody else, not so much. 32, you got to lose the glasses. He looks like he's on a list somewhere.
That's Derek Ross, by the way. Remember? Whoa!
Jeez,
He could be. Remember when I mentioned last Thursday the kid's house I was at when the Miracle on Ice happened?
Oh, yeah. That was
where
him?
I was. That's Derek Ross. Yeah, he was our fullback. You know, 32 dive. He was 32, and we'd run 32 dive, which is straight up the
32
middle.
dive. That's what he's known as. You're 32 dive.
We would run the ball 32
You
dive
have
off
no
the right
name.
guard.
You're just
Right
32
guard,
dive.
Yeah, 32 dive.
That's Derek Ross, man. I remember. And then the only kid, let's see, if we're looking, I know this is great radio for those of you who can't see. Where is Rusty Ryder? Oh, number 22 is Rusty Ryder. He was the only kid smaller than me on the team. So he and I would always match up and doing the pad drills and stuff because, we were about the same size. So, yeah, good times.
I like
In
how
fact, I remember this. I can't remember what I did yesterday, and let alone I could tell you about my Pee Wee football career. The plays, the players. That just amazes me. I think we are. I don't know about you guys if that's how you guys remember. I remember my kids' sports days more than I can remember what I've done the last 2 years.
I'm just glad the coach on the back left could really dress up for the picture. That's good to see.
I think he might have been a student assistant. Coach Meadows is the guy in the middle there, and he liked offensive linemen, so that's why the linemen would always get all the stickers.
Yeah, the coach on the left's looking like Kelly Leak.
Yeah.
You guys.
Where's the smoke?
Follow me, K. Graham. You got to remember, this was probably when I was, I think that would have been our B team year, so that would probably been when I was 12,
Well, thank you for adding that information.
Oh,
that
yeah,
makes much more information that you're on the B team.
So not quite the A team. No,
you weren't even A team.
No,
Wow.
there was. The next year I went to A team. As you grow, it went by age and weight. So you had D team, B team, C team, A team. Or no, sorry, I went what?
In
D
that
team,
order.
Wow.
C team, D team, C team, B team, A team, and that was my B team year. We literally got injured so bad we had to hand signal the plays in because we didn't have enough players to even run a play in. That was how yeah. But then the A team year, that's when we were good and we. missed out.
This is like 5 minutes we'll never get back.
I
Ever.
know, right?
I know. I apologize. But boy, it was great to go down memory lane in my football career, even though you didn't believe me.
No, I still did you have a uniform? Yes. That's what we've established here. Nothing really else outside of that have we established. We need film. There's got to be some Betamax out there somewhere with you slinging it.
Look at the numbers. There's nobody that has a quarterback number but me, guys. Because I was the only quarterback on the roster. I'm just saying. Anyways.
Oh, okay.
So.
All right, well, because of Kevin Graham's illustrious football career, I Googled Barbersville, West Virginia, and we may have stumbled on this little news story because Barbersville, hey, Kevin, some stuff's going on down there we got to look at.
It doesn't surprise me. Those Barbersville kids, man, I didn't like them.
Do have some breaking news stories coming into our newsroom right now. We do know that of a fire that's coming, a fire, I should say, in a garage. This actually happened a little bit before 10 o'clock, around 9:41. And let's see exactly where this is. I apologize that I'm just reading off my email here, but this is kind of what we're trying to get this information out on the web yet, so we haven't even got it out to you through our app yet. But it's actually, the address is in Ousley Gap Road in Barbersville, actually. So I apologize. It's not in Huntington. It's Cabell County. And we are hearing that it is a garage fire there. They are seeing heavy smoke, dispatchers say. They're saying that heavy smoke is visible. Now, they're telling us that the garage is completely in flames right now as well. We're also learning of another story that I wanted to touch on here. Let me pull this up for you here on WSAZ.com so you can take a look at it for yourselves.
What was the other story? I'm intrigued.
Well, it just cut off there. Apparently, that's where they drew the line. Like, okay, yeah, no. We don't want him to read the other story. WSAZ News Channel 3 in Barbersville. That is your local Barbersville story of the day. And that dude, I don't know who he is, but we got to
Happens all
find
the
more
time.
stories from him.
He's like the boom goes the dynamite guy.
That was his first and last.
Yeah.
If you remember that guy that went
Oh,
viral
yeah.
when
Oh,
viral
yeah.
started to happen. I don't know if people remember that. I don't know if Lloyd, you can find that real quick. But that's yeah. Barbersville, man. You know what? It doesn't surprise me. They were a bunch of punks over there, man. I mean, who knows what they were doing in that garage?
We all know that Ona was the that's where all the cool kids were.
That's right. Our chief rival was Milton, and they were the Whippets, the Ona Mustangs versus the Milton Whippets.
Wait a minute, like the song, like Whip It Good.
Yeah, well, no, I think Whippet's supposed to be like a young greyhound because the high school. So we were big rivals, Scotty. So Milton and Ona, and we were only a couple miles apart. And this is what always caused an
Jake's got to be there, right? Jake's there, right?
No, actually, no.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're the big rival, and then Ona and Milton. What would happen then when you go to high school? We'd have to go to Milton, and we'd become Milton Greyhounds. But it was always a problem because Ona and Milton kids, we hated each other, and then all of a sudden we had to come together as a team, and we were never very good because we didn't like each other.
Hey,
we never had
Lloyd,
teams.
was this what it was like when me and Hans would talk about Southern Idaho High School? Like, I know why people got upset about that now. Like, I totally get it.
This might be another level. This might be another level.
Hans is probably listening to this going, God, I got to come back. I got to save Scotty now. So,
I don't know if you can sell insurance for that last segment or not, but let's go.
yeah, that's good stuff, man.
All
I love
right,
this.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're listening to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The legend, Mitch Harper, is going to join us coming up here in just a moment. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hey, you know what? It is that time of year. Spring ball about to kick off for BYU. Cougars coming off a incredible run last year. May not have ended the way they would have liked, but it's back at it. Kalani and the crew ready to get this team going. Bear Bachmeyer in year number 2 as BYU able to keep the majority of those players that they wanted in-house, despite the fact Jay Hill on his way to Michigan to become the defensive coordinator there with Kyle Whittingham. Scott Garrard, Kevin Graham's hanging out with us today, yesterday and today, and I'm sure you're going to hear a little bit more, Kevin, over the next few weeks. But, Kevin, BYU, a really impressive year last year, and their transition into the Big 12, I know you keep tabs on that conference, but them being able to be as successful as they were over the last 2 years in the Big 12 has been really impressive to watch.
Oh, no question. I've really enjoyed watching it, and I think they rose to the top quicker than I thought.
Yes.
I mean, there's obviously that transition when you go there, but a few things you have. You have Kalani Sitake as a head coach. I mean, and the last time I was in 13 years ago, the last time I did talk radio, I think Kalani was still on the Utah defensive staff, I believe, at that point in time. And and you knew that he was gonna do some things eventually, and he got there, and he's done a tremendous job of building that program. Then added the fact in that BYU. And obviously the church and, everyone's agreed the NIL, and so now they're competing in that regard. And that was able to build the roster quicker to go along with the program Kalani's put together. And, of course, you had this Kalani scare possibly going to Penn State, but guess what BYU did? They ponied up and they kept him. And, the loss of Jay Hill could hurt, but at the same time, I think as long as Kalani is there, it's kind of like as long as Whittingham was there, you always knew the defense was going to be good. And I think that's going to be the same thing here. And Popenga has been in that program, and he knows what he's doing. At least you assume he is. I see it being a pretty smooth transition. But obviously, I think that's probably one of the top storylines going into the spring practice of some of those changes on the defensive side of the ball.
And joining us now, Cougar insider Mitch Harper, kind enough to hang out with us. Mitch, how you doing?
Doing great, guys. Happy to be on.
All right. So, what are your big storylines you're looking for going into spring ball with BYU?
Well, definitely what you guys were talking about with the defensive side and Kelly Popenga taking over as, DC now. And, he's been prepared for this moment, 2 decades almost of coaching experience. And this was Kalani Sitake's first choice. And when Kalani say that, typically you say it's a little bit of coach speak because maybe that's the guy you end up hiring. So you're going to make it seem like that. But that was really the buzz that Kalani wanted to go with Kelly Popenga. Gerald Guilford was in that mix too. but Kelly Poppinga was the guy that he wanted to turn to. And it makes a lot of sense, too, because, when you ever look at like a short list of, BYU head coach candidates, even though Kalani, of course, is locked in long term, Kelly Poppinga was one of those names that you kind of look at. Maybe he's got that ceiling. So there's always been a high view of Kelly Poppinga. And I'm just curious to see in spring ball what some of the wrinkles he brings to this defense that has been very successful the past 2 years. And he's around a coaching staff that has a lot of defensive coordinator experience around him. So there's a bit of a collaborative effort that you're going to see. And I think that's going to be the messaging from Kalani this offseason with this defense. But K-Pop will lead the way and call it. And I'm curious to see what wrinkles he throws into this defense. That should be a pretty talented group with a lot of returning experience heading into spring ball.
Hey, Mitch, great to talk to you, by the way. I've read your stuff, and I've listened to some of your podcasts and whatnot at KSLSports.com. You do a tremendous job. Obviously, quarterback's always the focus, and I think everybody would agree that you didn't expect you didn't expect Barrett Bachmeier to be as good as he was. How good can be in year two? I mean, what progress do you want to see out of him going from his freshman season to his sophomore season?
You have to see him be, the best quarterback in the Big 12. Outside of last year where Texas Tech had, the nation's best defense, and we saw that again really on display at the Combine with David Bailey putting up crazy numbers in the 40. Typically what we've seen in recent years, the best quarterback in the Big 12 typically is with the Big 12 champion, and that's what Barrett Bachmeier needs to be for BYU. And I think it was a huge step in the right direction for Bear. One, being able to play every single game because he is a guy that is physical and will take on contact and take on defenders with that size. And, seeing him in the winter and, shooting baskets at that Utah Jazz celebrity game with the youth at the Delta Center, he looks like he's gotten a little bit bigger. Curious to see, his size up close and in person today. But, he's got to, I think that the potential is there for him to be the best quarterback in the Big 12. And I think the quarterback play in this league has taken a hit. I think that was one of the knocks on the conference this year was that you saw, guys like Rocco Beck leave and follow Matt Campbell to Penn State, and, Sorsby stayed in the league by going to Texas Tech. But there were some big losses at the signal callers. And I think there's an opportunity for Bear to emerge as that top guy. And I think that's the challenge in front of him. And I know that he's a guy that gets mixed reviews from Cougar fans. Aaron Roderick, you kind of got to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, what he's done the last handful of years with all these quarterbacks, it's been pretty impressive. And, I would assume that, the Bears going to take a step forward. I thought, the last time that he had a quarterback that was going to be a returning starter was Jaron Hall, and Jaron got better in his senior season statistically. He just didn't have the great defense to pair up with him. And that's where that season in 2022 really dipped compared to expectations. But, you would assume that Aaron Roderick can get a lot out of his QB, and if Bear can stay healthy, I think he could be in that conversation to be the best quarterback in the Big 12. That's the potential for him.
When you look at and we don't need to go into the situation specifically, but with some absences on the court, or with a glaring absence now on the wide receiver side, how do you look at that room going forward? Yeah,
in the Parker Kingston situation, it's difficult. I mean, you just see him earlier this week, and he's in the discovery hearing, and he's in a suit, and he's got it's a tough deal, and it'll be interesting to hear Kalani talk about that, because that's going to have to be something that's a big talking point. I mean, the absence of Parker Kingston's huge because he was the number one receiver for BYU last year. Now, part of that, I think, was due to the amount of attention that Chase Roberts commanded. And, now this year, it's wide open for this, wide receiver unit. JoJo Phillips would be maybe the assumed guy that you would look at and say he's wide receiver one and going to be that top target. He dealt with a shoulder injury that he suffered in week 2 against Stanford and really was never the same receiver. He came back for that game in Lubbock against Texas Tech, and he had that drop, and he had a few drops late in the season. So as a byproduct of that, I don't think that gives him an upper hand or upper leg on anyone in terms of, being wide receiver one. This needs to be open competition. I think it's a very intriguing battle. I think the good news for BYU is that they do have more options at the tight end unit. They do lose Carson Ryan, but Walker Lyons should be that tight end one to step in and replace Ryan. I think he could be even better at that position. And then, Noah Moeaki comes back. He had a touchdown grab last season. He'll be in the mix. And then Roger Saliapaga, Oregon transfer, hasn't really done anything yet at the collegiate level, was a heralded recruit like many are that go to Oregon. They like the skill set, the size, the measurables, but it's more of a projection base with him. But I think the options there at tight end are much better than where it's been since BYU joined the Big 12. And that could be an area that can maybe mask some of the, maybe lack of depth at wide receiver, because, that wide receiver spot's got intriguing personnel with JoJo Phillips, Cody Hagan, Reggie Frischneck's a name to watch. He was someone that was gaining buzz in fall camp last year until he got a little bit banged up. A former Snow College transfer, Weber State guy, good size. He could be intriguing. And then also Kyler Casper, a 6'6" transfer from Oregon as well. He's dealt with multiple foot injuries in his college career, heading into his 5th year in college football, still 2 years of eligibility remaining because he's had a couple medical red shirts. He's someone that Aaron Roderick believes could be a real factor for BYU at the receiver unit. But again, there's been no production his entire college career. It's more kind of projecting that he's going to be someone that fits in BYU's offense. So that wide receiver unit, they've got to establish, a 2 deep that they really feel confident in, or else they probably have to go dip into the portal and get someone that's still kind of remaining in there. And that's not ideal because there's no spring portal anymore. So you're not going to get a fresh batch of names to go into that thing. It's the guys that are kind of left hanging around right now. And I don't think you want to swim in those waters at this moment.
Mitch, outside of the receiver's position, as you just astutely broke down, what other intriguing position battles should BYU fans kind of be aware of as you go into spring practices?
I think the offensive line is going to be really interesting because they bring in, an influx of transfers that I think they feel could start right away. But they also like a lot of the returning personnel. Bruce Mitchell, he's an all Big 12 first-team guy from a season ago. He'll be the starter at center. They bring back Andrew Gentry. I think where the intrigue lies with him, former Michigan transfer. He started at right tackle last season. Do they swing him over to the left side? He has played left tackle position at his time at Michigan. They bring a player in Paki Finau from the University of Washington. He was a heralded recruit, 4-star guy that BYU was recruiting heavily when the former offensive line coach Darryl Funk was there. They couldn't get him out of high school. He goes to Washington, and now he comes to BYU. He could play tackle. He could play guard. I think he's probably the best transfer of the group. Junior Sia comes in from Utah State, and then Zach Yamauchi from Stanford, and they still got some returning personnel with, Kyle Safarichok and Sonny Mocassini. There's some good options there on that offensive line. Like, this could be, I think this is going to be maybe the best one that Kalani's had since they arrived in the Big 12. They've had some good offensive lines, but I think this one will be the best one yet because of the options. They got to stay healthy, and that's going to be key and paramount. But I think that offensive line, just figuring out who that 5 is going to be, should be some pretty good competition because they also have some guys that have been, just biding their time, redshirt freshmen, redshirt sophomores that they've been really high on that haven't had opportunities to play that'll factor into the mix too, like a Joe Brown, former Lone Peak prospect. So there's some interesting battles there along the offensive line in spring coming up.
You talk about that offensive line, and I admit I'm biased. I know him, and I've worked with him, but I was heaping the praise on TJ Woods as soon as BYU hired because they needed a little toughness in that room. They needed a guy that would really bring that level of energy and fire, and TJ's done that. Just how impressed are you that he is, we talk about a lot of coaches getting poached, but the fact that he's back at BYU is a big win.
It definitely is. And I think, to Kevin's point earlier, to open this segment, with Kalani at the top of it all, even when there are some moving pieces on the coaching staff, I think there's still this feeling that BYU is going to now have, the floor has been leveled up for BYU, where they're a program now that you don't think they're going to have an epic fall to 5 wins or 4 wins. They seem like, the floor is probably 8. And then if you get a few bounces go your way, as they've kind of had the past couple of years into some of these games, maybe you can be in that 11-win territory, 10-win threshold. And that's where you're now in the playoff conversation is BYU's experience. Now can they break through? And at the center of it all is got to be at the offensive line. And they feel really good about where they're at on that offensive line. And you look at kind of the recruiting that they've been putting together for even the 2027 and 28 cycles. I mean, they're in the mix for some, heralded recruits that are top 100 guys in the next couple cycles that they feel pretty optimistic about. So BYU's in a good place there. And I think that what's turned the corner was, they've actually been producing NFL guys. They went that long stretch from 2005 to 2020 without an NFL draft pick, which is crazy to think because, BYU just, in the heyday with Lavelle, it was always, churning out, big, mature offensive linemen that are going to the league. And they went 15 years without a draft pick. And I remember like the first day that Kalani addressed the media in a practice, like it was 10 years ago this month. He said that he's going to build up humongous offensive lines again at BYU. Well, fast forward to now in the Big 12, he's done that. And now it's kind of a matter of, maybe taking it to a higher level. And I kind of look at this whole season, even though there's going to be high expectations for Kalani and this team, it almost feels a little bit like a year one again for Kalani, where, 2016 to 2020 was phase one of Kalani's tenure with independence and kind of finding his footing. 2021 and 2025 was ramping up and establishing yourself in the Big 12. Now the challenge for Kalani and the program is, as he puts it, to build a juggernaut. And that is not easy. And, it's manageable at BYU. It's just an 8-win team. They've done that. I mean, that's been their history over 50 years. But can you become an elite program year after year where no matter who the players are, who the coaches are, you kind of get that benefit of the doubt where, like, they're always going to be in the mix. And that's the challenge in front of them this year and for the years ahead, with Kalani being pretty much kind of cemented as the guy going forward. That's the challenge. And it feels like it's kind of the first year of this new kind of era for Kalani Sitake as he's got his long-term deal.
The thing listening to you, Mitch, that's really encouraging, I think, is it seems to me that BYU is building depth, which is something they haven't been able to do in the past, particularly when they're independent. So I think that's really encouraging as you're talking about all the various players on the offensive line and whatnot. So here is the million-dollar question, or let's just say multi-million-dollar question. What's it going to take to overtake – obviously Utah's going to be a factor. We're not going to discard them at all. But what's it going to take to overtake the NFL salaried roster of Texas Tech?
BYU has to, they have to, I think, have a higher-powered offense that has more explosive plays. I think, BYU is very methodical last year. They were a team that could put together a 10, 11, 12-play drive. They got to have more explosive playmakers on the edges at wide receiver. They got to have more depth at running back, and you're going to have to roll with what you got right now. And those are areas of concern. Outside of L.J. Martin at running back, that is a big question to me in spring ball. And because, that's going to be something I'm really curious to see who emerges as some viable options that could be RB2, RB3 behind L.J. Martin this season. They feel like they've got some guys, but BYU just got to be a little bit more of an explosive offense, big plays, get things a little bit easier, because against, even Texas Tech, that one touchdown drive they had in the Big 12 championship, it was a great drive, that opening series, but it took, 11, 12 plays, whatever it ended up being back in December. That can't be the model every single drive. They got to have some, big play ability. And I think L.J. Martin's that, and I think Bear Bachmeier can do that. They got to identify those big playmakers too. And Texas Tech is going to be big time again this year. BYU doesn't face them in the regular season, but I would expect that Texas Tech's going to be back in Arlington. And, they lose David Bailey, but they got a guy from like Allen University who looks like a carbon copy of him, watching his D3 film. And you're thinking, where do they find these guys? So they've done an excellent job of really identifying hidden gems too, along with the big dollar guys that Texas Tech has found with their player personnel. I think BYU feels pretty good about their player personnel department as well, with how they're building out their rosters. There's still some areas where, like I laid out with wide receiver and running back, where there's some questions. But I think what BYU's done a good job too with building out their depth. They haven't just been signing recruiting classes that all go immediately on missions. Like, you'll look at this today with practice. A big bulk of their 2026 recruiting class, outside of 8 guys, is going to be on campus going through practice today, which is kind of unheard of when you think of BYU recruiting classes of the past, usually it was always, well, see you in 2 years and we'll get back to you when maybe it's a redshirt year, and then suddenly 3 years have gone by and they haven't played a down still. And now you're getting more balance to where, at least 50, 60% of your signing class is going to be there from year one, and they're immediately stepping in and trying to contribute and, create more depth. And I think BYU's taking a more strategic approach to that, where it can't just solely be sign and send guys. Like, yes, that is part of the DNA of BYU football. At the same time, you also have to have some immediate contributors as well, because if you try to always just sign and send and then red shirt and then maybe gray shirt, that's 3 or 4 years, and you're behind the 8 ball where these other teams are just stacking up depth year after year. You got to be able to contend with them. And BYU's got more financial resources where they're investing at a higher level. And I think the player development, the talent, and they really believe in their strength and conditioning staff. They've had a lot of success there with that change a couple of years ago. So things are good right now for BYU. They got to just take it to a higher level, and that's easier said than done.
Mitch, appreciate your time. Thanks for helping us out with that re-rank show last week. That was awesome stuff, and I'm sure you got some nothing but positive feedback from that as well from Utah and BYU fans. But can't thank you enough, man. You're the best.
You bet, guys. Take care.
There he is, Mitch Harper, KSLSports.com, BYU insider, and frankly, does such a good job. And I know you've read his stuff and watched what he does over at KSLSports.com. We've got a really good group of people that really cover these individual teams well at KSL Sports, and big thanks to him for knocking it out of the park as always. That's a guy that he knows his teams inside and out. There's no doubt.
Yeah, he's on it. I mean, you can just tell listening to him. So it's going to be excited. I can't tell you. I mean, we've been bagging on college football, but it's all off the field stuff. I mean, once you get on the field, man, I'm very, very intrigued for this upcoming season. I mean, not only obviously BYU, but Morgan Scalley and what he's going to do in taking over this program at Utah, and how that's going to shake out. And let's face it, we're all going to. I mean, some U fans may not want to, but we're all going to keep an eye on Michigan as well with Kyle Whittingham. I think you have to after he was here for 21 years. So, it's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be cool. And, of course, our friend Bronco, your friend Bronco Mendenhall up at Utah State, and Robert and I, it's like they were there at BYU 13 years ago they were at BYU, 13 years ago. And so Bronco Mendenhall, Robert and I, and Kevin Graham all hanging out and, talking Utah sports. Yay.
A lot of people don't know that we – oh, yeah, I know. I hope people are prepared for our Michigan at 25 updates that we'll be unveiling coming up in the fall. So I got to imagine that will be well received. Yes, exactly. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to spin the wheel and talk some sports. This is Sports Roulette on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, the wheel has made its triumphant return. All right, so early in the show, Kevin, we made a trip down to Wendover, and Lloyd somehow found a way to bring a roulette wheel in the back of his vehicle, and that's about all the details you need to know about that. So we have a full-size roulette wheel in the studio. What we do is we have a chance to put some headlines on that roulette wheel. We spin it. Wherever that little ball lands is what we end up talking about. We have no choice whatsoever. We are ultimately at the sole discretion of the roulette wheel. So with that, Lloyd, fire that sucker up. Let's see what we're talking about.
What the puck?
Wow.
Nice check swing, Lloyd. All right, so obviously Team USA getting the gold medal. Jack Hughes hits the game winner in overtime. One of the biggest wins, in fact, the biggest win in USA hockey since 1980 against the Soviet Union. So obviously that puck has a little bit of value to it. That winning goal, that golden goal puck, it's got to be somewhere on display. It's got to be somewhere in Jack Hughes' house, right? Well, no, Jack was asked where it was.
I want to know, where's the puck? Did somebody get that puck?
I honestly have no idea where that puck went. I know who doesn't have it is me. I sure as hell have it, but I
That would be a good one to have.
Well, I'm wondering where the helmet is.
Yeah, that's over the boards.
Some lucky fan walked away with that helmet. That's like the greatest souvenir ever.
No. Actually, if you rewatch it, the helmet stayed on the ice because it got caught.
Oh.
Like the chin strap got caught around my fingers. So I tried to check it in the stand, and I couldn't let go of it. So I went like this, and it went like back over my head.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, it looked pretty unreal, honestly.
So he's got his helmet that he looked like he was chucking into the stand. So that's there. But the winning puck, I can't imagine what that bad boy is going to be worth, not just now, but 15, 20, 25 years from now. Nobody knows where it's at. He's like, look, I know who doesn't have it, and that's the guy who scored the game-winning goal.
You know what? First things first, I would look at the Canadian goalie.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt. Canada couldn't win the game, but if they could have got the puck, he's the last one that saw it, right? So,
yeah, that's a good
and
point.
then outside of that, it would have to be a referee or something, right? One of those guys would probably have grabbed it. You think? Those would be my suspects. Suspect 1, suspect 2.
Jordan Bennington, you are suspect number 1.
Exactly. And you know what? If I'm the United States of America, man, I'm sending the troops up there, and I'm going to find that puck. Like, that puck belongs to the United States of America. That's the way it is. We won fair and square. So give us the puck back.
Give us back our puck. Yeah,
that's right. We want the puck.
Hey,
making sure I'm saying puck. Yes,
I know, right? Yeah. Don't want any maple syrup stains on it. Nothing.
Nope.
No glaze from Timmy Horton donuts. None of that stuff. Just bring us back our puck, and we will not invade your country.
That's right. That's the deal.
Yep.
Pick up the phone. Let's get on this now.
All right, Lloyd, spin it.
Dampier versus Bachmeier.
Oh, Kevin, nothing I like more than lists of quarterbacks go in February as we look ahead to the start of the season.
Yes. I know on your 60 for 60 last Friday, Bear was number 5 and Dampier was number 6? Isn't that right? Okay, so I saw a list, Athlon Sports. They do lists all the time. I get suckered in every time I see a list.
Oh, I do too.
So now they have the opposite. They have, they were ranking the Big 12 quarterbacks heading into spring practice or whatnot, and they have Bachmeier at number 5 in the Big 12 and Dampier at number 4. So it's a little reversed. So I'm kind of curious to hear the logic in the 60 by 60 and why Bear was ahead of Dampier in that one. But now, of course, you look at the national side of things, they're putting Dampier ahead of Bachmeier.
Well, that's a good question. We had multiple voters, and we just take the average vote. I do believe that Josh Furlong, who did the voting as the Utah insider, did have Dampier ahead of Bear Bachmeier, where Mitch Harper had Bear Bachmeier ahead of Devin Dampier. So I would have had Bear Bachmeier ahead of Dampier just because of the overall success of the team. I'm going to take the quarterback from the team that won the head-to-head, and also played in a conference championship game. And the fact he did as a true freshman, too, is just remarkable. Devin Dampier's got several years under his belt, obviously first year at Utah. But I would have had Bear ahead of Devin. But I can understand why Athlon would go Devin. Frankly, they're neck and neck in my eyes, but I will always go head-to-head. I don't know where you'd go at on that.
No, I agree. I understand. Let's flip it this way then. Say, okay, if Dampier was on BYU's roster, do they have a better chance last year of beating Texas Tech? Knowing what Mitch just said when we asked him about what Bear needs to do to take it up a level in his sophomore season and what BYU has to do to take it up a level to win the Big 12 title as opposed to losing in that championship game. And he said big plays, and the ability. Now, Dampier, I don't know. See, I guess now I'm talking to myself out of this. Because Dampier to me is more dynamic, just because, again, But then Bachmeier, though, he could roll over people.
Yeah.
And I think has a better overall throwing arm or better arm. So, now I'm kind of – that's a good debate, actually. I was leaning towards Dampier ahead of Bachmeier, but I don't know, man. It's close. All right, Dampier on BYU's roster. Anything change?
No, they still lose to Texas Tech twice.
Okay. All right, then you know what? They're right there. By the way, do you know what the top three are of what they said here? So number 3, they have Fafita from Arizona. So you have Fafita ahead of Dampier and Bachmeier.
Don't like that.
I don't either. If I mispronounce his name, because I didn't watch Oklahoma State at all this past year, basically, except a few times. Mestamaker, is that his name? Drew. Yeah, they're talking about him. Oh yeah, because he was at North Texas last season. They're ranking him ahead of those.
That's the red shirt, or not the red shirt, the walk-on that never played high school ball that went to North Texas and threw for 8,000 yards.
Yeah. So we'll see how he does. Obviously, North Texas coach is now at Oklahoma State. And then our favorite, who's now suing Cincinnati, Brendan Sorsby is number 1 at Texas Tech, who obviously is going to be the highest paid quarterback in the league as well. So those are the top 3, followed by Dampier at 4 and Bachmeier at 5.
So, Lloyd, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, and we've kind of tiptoed around this a little bit. I watched a lot of Big 12 football last year. Sorsby's a good quarterback. Yeah. Sorsby's not worth that amount of money, and I would not – Sorsby I probably put number 1 of all your returning quarterbacks, but it's not light years ahead of Bear Bachmeier or Devin Dampier. There was obviously good plays, good moments, but I didn't really look at him as, wow. There's some quarterbacks you watch, and you're just like, okay, that dude is just flat-out special. I didn't have a lot of those moments with Sorsby last year. I think that he was – the best quarterback available on the open market, and he got paid like it. But ultimately, is he going to be the guy that leads Texas Tech to another championship? I think if they win, it's because of defense and skill players. I don't think it's necessarily because Sorsby's putting a team on his shoulders. And I might be dismissing it. I don't know if it's a BYU-Utah bias. I just wasn't blown away by Brandon Sorsby last year. Utah
and BYU made him look pedestrian. And granted, he might have been. I think if I remember right, he was a little banged up against Utah, but still, he looked very average. And I think you're spot on by him getting paid for just being the best quarterback that's available.
Well, one thing to throw out there, guys, though, he was playing at Cincinnati, and let's face it. Cincinnati had a 7-6 year last year and 5-4 in the conference. Will he elevate to the level of athletes he has around him? He's obviously going to be playing with a lot better team at Texas Tech. So that's the question of whether his game elevates, because he is going to be surrounded, like you said, Scotty, by better athletes, better skill players, and, of course, he's got a great defense as well.
Yeah. And I'm more than happy to eat crow on that one. If he goes out and tears it out and he's a Heisman Trophy, candidate, then you know what? Fine. But there were a lot of moments, and, that's going to be really interesting to see. And Texas Tech is betting a lot of money and may even be paying $1 million buyout for him because they're planning on him having that kind of a year. So,
and you know what? If you're a BYU and Utah fan, you're hoping what you and Lloyd are saying is what comes to be reality. Because to me, that's the best chance that Utah and BYU have to actually overtake Texas Tech and have a chance to actually win the Big 12 championship.
Yeah. All right, there you go. Sports Roulette. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We'll wrap up this bad boy coming up next, live here at Tim Daly Mazda Southtown. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Wrapping up another edition of the show. Wrapping up another week of shows. Can't thank Kevin Graham enough for hanging out with us. KG, let's do it again here soon.
Yeah, definitely. Weekend, though, I need to know from you, Scotty. BYU, do they beat WVU?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you think that's a gimmick. Utah State. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
No,
Grand
I just
Canyon?
think yeah. Oh, Grand Canyon. No, Utah State's going to win that game. Grand Canyon's good, by the way. That is one of those for-profit schools that is just printing money, kind of like Liberty, what they're doing right now in football. So they've got a lot of money. They actually have the highest paid roster in the Mountain West Conference. More than New Mexico, more than UNLV. Grand Canyon is spending a ton of money, and they've got a really good roster. I do think, though, Utah State gets the win because that one – all right, so let me ask you this. We talk about fan behavior. So when Utah State was down playing at Grand Canyon, they've got a great student section down there, and – they had these little flyers that the school essentially hands out to the student section. It's produced by the leaders of the student section. So it's done by students, but it's university approved. and they had a lot of like things you can heckle at or say to Utah State players, which is fine. Utah State does the same thing. But on that sheet had the cell phone numbers of Mason Falslev and Jared Calhoun, the head coach.
I know where this is going.
And I got, in fact, some of them shared some of the voicemails that they got and some of the texts they got, and it wasn't very pretty.
Nice?
No,
oh, man.
And so, yeah, it's safe to say
that was a religious school. Maybe I'm wrong.
Wow,
yeah.
Some of those voicemails were not overly religious. No, and
really?
So I will. I can safely say this game has been circled for a bit on this one, so that should be a fun one.
All right, so BYU wins. Utah State wins. They definitely need to win. They got to snap that 2-game losing streak, get back on the right track. I agree with that. Utah at Arizona State in hoops. Can they get out of last place somehow?
Yeah, probably Arizona State. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I mean, this is not local, but KU at Arizona is going to be an interesting game, and then Texas Tech at Iowa State's going to be good games in the Big 12.
Yep.
So
there's some good college basketball.
Yeah. So it's all that, and then do the Mammoth get the win tonight? In their big game tonight, obviously Minnesota Wild. That's a tough team too. Man, they've had two tough teams to battle right coming out of the chute. Did they get the victory tonight? Okay, all right,
yes.
That's good.
Let's go.
They need to do that. All right, and finally, in the battle for fifth place, meaning the fifth worst record, because the Jazz lose tonight, they will now have they will overtake the Pelicans, who they're playing, to become the fifth worst team. Do they do it, Scotty?
The Jazz not just lose, but they triumphantly lose tonight again to the Pelicans. Yes.
That's awesome. Good. So there we go. We got a good weekend. We'll hold you to it, Scotty. And I took notes of all that.
Okay.
So
well, considering how that win-loss record goes depends on how often we bring you back next week.
Okay. Well, there you go.
We might need to have a span of a little bit of space there if we perform really poorly.
Man,
let's maybe push that to the back of the week a little bit longer.
Yeah, gotcha.
Sounds
good. Had a great time, guys. I loved it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you, Scotty.
That is Kevin Graham. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.